Okay, now.
Okay. We spoke about the end of last week. That's why I want to pick up. Mitzvah Nuntes, the mitzvah of Tkiyah B'Chatzotros. The Ram in the first half of the mitzvah talks about Chatzotros and Mikdash on Korban, and the second half he talks about Chatzotros in on Aseh. And we pointed out that the Seder of the Rambam is a priori completely incoherent, because he says Ubebeya Omru Shemitzvos Hayom B'Chatzotros, that's referring to Chatzotros of Aseh, which he hasn't introduced yet. So how could you talk of Beya Omru on something you haven't introduced yet? He's talking about karbanos, and then Beya Omru Shemitzvos Hayom B'Chatzotros, ukvar his boy mishpatei mitzvah besifri ובראש השנה בתייnis, and the discussion in tiny certainly and Rosh Hashanah maybe is about chatzotros of Aseh. V'chein anachnu mitzuvim. Now he talks about v'chein anachnu mitzuvim l'skoya b'chatzotros b'itos hatzarich v'atzoros kishenizak elov yisala. So l'cheira who embedded, and what's the v'chein? V'chein anachnu mitzuvim l'skoya b'chatzotros. You start like this. V'chein anachnu mitzuvim l'chatzotros. We change the order around. It's beautiful. V'chein anachnu mitzuvim l'skoya b'chatzotros b'itos hatzarich v'atzoros kishenizak elov yisale v'u'amar yisale v'chizavo m'chom b'artzachem v'chulei v'goymer. And then on this mitzvah of chatzotros be'aseh shemitzvos hayom b'chatzotros. That's a mitzvah. That's the Aseh, as opposed to a Sefer of Rosh Hashanah, where the mitzvah is shofars. And then ukvar his boy mishpatei mitzvah besifri v'Rosh Hashanah ubetayniya. So that explains, that goes on the whole thing, and that's that is beautiful. If you just change the order, the question is, can you do such a thing or whatever it is? But I'm just saying, whatever you want to do, the same to the way it is now is almost incoherent. Now, so maybe we'll do it in that order. So v'chein anachnu, okay. First of all, is v'chein anachnu in Ibetibin, it's in ובשעת anachnu לפי שאנו in Kapach לפי שאנו. But the tilgum of v'chein is according to the context that it's another thing. So you have to decide exactly how you want to translate and how you want to deal with it. Shanachnu, but the important thing over here is not that. Anachnu, it's in the plural, that chatzotros be'aseh is also chovas sibur. Just like, in other words, there's like an equation, in the same way, or that the chatzotros and mikdash on karbonos is an obligation on the community. Also, the chatzotros of Esora is an obligation on the community. And that's the Rambam Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph in Hilchos Tainis. Mitzvas say min haTorah lizoik loria b'chatzotros al kol tzor shetovo al tzibur. So it's the community. It's not an individual. And this is not like Rabbi Akiva in the Sifri, Ba'aloischa Piska Ayin Zayin. They're taken b'chatzotros even at Tzoros Yochid. So this anachnu is a very important thing. And in other words, Rabbi Akiva is not just a question of what it's a question of definition of Mishnah of the mitzvah. Is it a chovas tzibur, is an obligation on the community, or it's an individual obligation? Now, interesting. The Rambam didn't do it at the beginning of the mitzvah. The question is, who are the people who blow these chatzotros? Okay. At the beginning of the mitzvah, in chatzotros and mikdash, she doesn't talk about it. We mentioned last week that the mitzvah, in Mishnah Torah at least, is an obligation on the it's part of the avodah shira of Levim, and the Kohanim happen to blow the instruments, and it's because ikar shira b'peh. Okay, but I'm here doesn't say who blows it all. That's in the first part, and the second part also in the chatzos based tinios, he also doesn't say who blows. It's an obligation to see, but doesn't say who blows. However, in the Psukim, in Bamidbar Yud, it starts with a mitzvah that was noeg rak b'midbar, to gather the people in the Siyam for the Siyam of Chaniyos HaMachnes. And then it continues in Pasuk Ches. Ubnei Aaron HaKohanim yiskeu b'chatzotros v'hoyu lochem l'chukas olam d'oraseichem. Or the din of Deres is Bnei Aaron HaKohen that are supposed to be tekeah. V'chisavo l'choma ba'artzachem al atzar atzere eschem v'areisim b'chatzotros iskad l'bnei Hashem Elokeichem v'nishantem me'oiveichem u'v'yoyim svichaschem mo'odeichem mo'shechatshechem u'skatem b'chatzotros al oisechem v'azivche shameichem v'oyu lochem l'zikor l'bnei Hashem Elokeichem l'bnei Elokeichem ani Hashem Elokeichem. So it says there's a mitzvah of the Deres. Everything before is the chlasha. So this is the mitzvah of the Deres, the Kohanim and chatzotros. And then it goes on to mention two cases of chatzotros. One is, the first one is Be'esara, and the second one is ala korban. That's what you have. So it has to be since the din l'doros seichem, it has to go on these, or at least on one of them, because everything before is only the shah. To say that the chiyuv of Kohanim is only in Mikdash, it's very odd that the Torah should have said a din of Kohen, and then to say right next to it that which is no din Kohen, and then afterwards say the din Kohen. It's very, very odd. Very odd to say the psukim. So one would assume that the din chatzos is either on both or only on Za'aka Be'esora. The whole passion of psukim. So the simplest way is to say that both chalkei mitzvah, both the korban and the esor require tkiyas chatzos of kohanim, and the Ramban seems to say that Ramban in Tanis, in Tezvav and Aleph, and the Ravid also, who's quoted there, that you require Kohanim Beim and Mikdash Beim Begvulim. In Mishnah Torah, in Ukas Clay, HaMikdash, for the boy, the Ram quotes it by Korban. And it's part of the mitzvah, as I said before, the part of the mitzvah of Shiur Halavim. Not the mitzvah of Avodas Halavim, and Shiur is part of that. But Chatzret is Be'esora, the Rambam does not quote in Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, which is very odd. Rashi in Chumash on Pasuk Ches B'nei and Yisco, he says, "B'mikros u'b'masos halolu," which l'cheira is very difficult to side more, because the Kohanim were only said in the din of Midbar, which is a Shah, and the Pasuk says in the Sefer. That's not an issue, just an aside. Now, just a few comments. Let's read it now. V'chein anachnu mitzuvim l'skoya b'chatzotros b'itos hatzorech v'atzoros. B'itos hatzorech v'atzoros. Very strange lashon, first of all. It's a double lashon. It's two separate things. B'itos hatzorech v'atzoros. The Ibn Iyov says hatzoros vatzukos, whatever that is. Kapach hatzoros v'rois. I don't know hatzoros v'rois. I don't know. The chais. The literal translation of the first Arabic word, which is discussed, is it's talking about, you could translate tzorech, mitzuka, lachatz, or nezik. The question is, what's the double lashon here is very odd. But l'cheira, the Kavanas Rambam, whatever you translate these two words on, why he goes out of his way to have these two words, is for what he has in Peri Beis of at least tiniest Halacha Aleph. Elu hein atzoros shel tzibur shemis'anin u'masrin aleim. Al-tzoras Sine Yisrael, Yisrael. That's one. Ve'al cherev, ve'al dever, ve'al chayro, ve'al arbe, ve'al chosil, ve'al shidopo, ve'al yirokoin, ve'al mapeles, ve'al chaloim, ve'al mizoinos, ve'al amoto. And whatever it is, in Mishnah Torah, one word is enough. He says that it's Elu Hein Hatzoros Shel Tzibur Shemesanin Umaschin Aleim. Okay. In Chuvas of Yeshua Nogid, in the mitzvah Zu, in this mitzvah, Yeshua Nogid was the Ram's great grandson. She'ela. So there it's Hatzoros Lapronios. Okay, the question we translate the Arabic. Okay. Ma Hevdel Beinein. What's the difference? Tiritz. Hatzoros Kagoin Milchomois Kishoivim Boyim Aleim Pronios Kagoin Shnas Habitzoron O Shidofon O Yerokoin. Sorry, I made it wrong. Tzoros Kagoin Milchomois Kishoivim Boyim Aleim Oleinu. Okay. Tzoros is going, coming against us. Puronios can go in shnas batzeres. It's just we have problems. You know, there's a catastrophe. It's not the goyim are coming against us. Batzeres shidofon or yerokoin. Puronios. Okay, it's all very nice. But Lamais is in Mishnah Torah, the Ram used the word tzoros and refers to everything, unless the Arabic of tzoros is different. I just don't get it. Whatever it is, that's what he wants to say is the thing. Whatever it is, it's the list in the Ram and Hilchos Tainiyos. And okay. Next. Now. And this is the Pasha of the Pasuk, V'chizavo milchoma ba'altzachem, al hatzar hatzera eschem. So, Lemaisa is, the Pasha of the Pasuk is, by milchoma, V'chizavo milchoma ba'altzachem, al hatzar hatzera eschem. So it should be only on Solis, not on Puronios, or nezik or something like that. So that's l'chera nezik or lachatz or mitzuka. There's a catastrophe. The Rambam beitos hatzorach vatzoros and in Mishnah Torah extends it. It's bi'itos hatzorach vatzoros, and it's not only milchomos. The Rambam in Bamidbar Yud Pasuk Tes, he writes like this: "V'etzaloyma im savo milchoma be'artzachem, shehi Eretz Yisrael, v'hu yadua ki ha-milchoma tiyeh im ha'oyev." Lo imo oyev. People who like each other are not fighting. Ulzeh lo nitzach loima al hatzar hatzera eschem. Why did Torah, he asked the question, v'rizlo milchama bi'atzachem al hatzar hatzera eschem. It means your enemy. Okay. So who's going to fight against you? Your friend? That's what he asked the Kasha Rabak. Eloidia to be'ezet tzar sheyitzel Yisrael yasu came lahora Loria b'chatzotros. It's not dafka milchama, it's other things also. That's where he learns, that's how Chazal knew that it's not limited to milchama. The Ramban, and Asogis to mitzvah hey, according to one day, the mitzvah l'skoya b'chatzreis is b'chol. He says like this: V'zeh ki inyan shekosuv ba'aloischa, when he's talking about the asog and the mitzvah tefillah. V'chizavo v'choma ba'artzachem ha'atzar atzereschem v'roisim b'chatzreis v'niskal ne'shem elokechem v'hi mitzvah al kol tzara v'tzara shetovo al hatzibur litzoik lefonov b'tfilo u'b'thua. So it means za'aka plus trua. Okay? But again, it's al kol tzara v'tzara. So it's clear from all these, you could have, I'm saying, reading the Pshut Mikra, you could have assumed that it's only Muhammad, but that's not what it has. And the Sifri is interesting. In Ba'aloischa, in Piska Ayin Vav, there's a day that the mitzvah is only Muhammad talks about Gog and Magog. This now you can look there. Okay, next. Now, Kishenitzak Elov Yis'ale. It says, here again, V'chein anachnu mitzuvim, l'skoya b'chatzotros, v'itos atzerich, v'atzoros, two separate things. Kishenitzak Elov Yis'ale. One at a time. Now, is it Elov Yis'ale? That's Ibn Ayov. Lefonov Yis'ale is Kapach. In Ibn Tibin, it's Lifnei Hashem Yis'ale. Okay. It doesn't mention in the Arabic, the original Arabic, it doesn't mention Hashem. So that's why I would just say, that's why it's it's basically a reference to God. It's a pronoun reference to God, but it's not mentioned God. Okay, but it's not no gay one way or the other. Okay? Now, if you read the important part over here, if you read it, is Zaka part of the mitzvah? Or Zaka is a t'nai. When we're zoyek to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then there's a mitzvah chatzotros. Anachnu mitzvah l'skoy b'chatzotros b'itos atzarich v'atzoros kitchenizak lefonov yis'ala. So it means when we're zoyek, there's a mitzvah of chatzotros. So l'chayr za'aka mibnei atzar atzere eschem is the mechayiv of chatzotros. And Mitzvah Shem, I just want to, we'll see that Mishnah Torah, and if you recall the Ramban we just mentioned before, Za'aka is part of the mitzvah, which mitzvah will pick up. Okay? Next. But here, it's not clear that that's the case at all. Now, let me just go like this. I'm going to start something. We'll see, and I'll finish it. There are two parts to this mitzvah, right? There's a mitzvah of tir b'chatzotros, our carbon, and chatzotros be'esara. So it should be two separate mitzvahs. The din of chatzotros and mikdash is the din nakovas karbonos, and the kir chatzotros be'esara is a tesefes l'za'aka l'kodesh baruch hu b'nei atzara. The Magid Mishnah in Hilchos Tainiyos, Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, says the following, this quote, V'ri'isi l'Rabbeinu b'Sefer HaMitzvos, Shaloi, Shemona Tchua Zu, Utkia, Shebeshas HaKorbanos, Mitzvah Achas, V'tomea Ani, Loma, Ha'ishnei Psukim, Hein B'Kosov. It's very strange, Ha'ishnei Psukim, Hein B'Kosov. No. So one could have said that he's maybe, that since it's one, the Ma'aseh mitzvah is the same, it's a Ma'aseh tekua b'chatzotros, so therefore it's one mitzvah. But that is difficult because the Rambam counts Tekiyah and Yovel, and Tekiyah and Rosh Hashanah is as two mitzvahs, even though it's the same Ma'aseh mitzvah, the Ma'aseh Tekiyah. But the reason why the two separate mitzvahs is the two separate Inyonei HaTorah, as the Ram explains there very clearly in the mitzvah of Aseh Kuf Lamed Zayin. So he asks, Tekiyas Sefer Rosh Hashanah, why are they two mitzvahs shonos, b'minyan? And he answers, V'yadua she'tekiyah hazeis b'yovel omnam hi lefasim acherus, it's achroza of yovel, Ushehu min mimini achroza, v'hu amar yis'al, v'hu amar v'krosim dro, v'ein inyono, inyan tekiyas Rosh Hashanah, ki hu zikaron lifnei Hashem, v'zu l'hoitzi eser avon l'kol shebe'anu. So the fact that it's one ma'aser doesn't necessarily make it into one mitzvah, if it's two separate Inyonei HaTorah. So this is the important part, and this is what I was alluding to before. That the Rambam holds in Minyan HaMitzvos that the kiyas of Hakovas Korban and the kiyah be'esara is an inyan echad. It has to be because the mitzvahs of Inyonei HaTorah and Yovel and Tekiyah of Rosh Hashanah and Tekiyah of Yovel are two separate mitzvahs because it's two separate Inyonei HaTorah. So you have to say that this is one Inyonei HaTorah. And if you look at the psukim, it also seems to be one Inyan. because both of them, that there should be zikon lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. The same Ma'aseh mitzvah and the same inyan. Ki savo milchoma be'altzchem al atzar atzere eschem v'aroisem b'chatzrotes v'niskaten lifnei Hashem Elokeichem no shantem yoiveichem. So that's niskaten lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. Then וביום שמחת מועדיכם ואשר ארצכם בשעת ורצחייסס על יסרם וזכריס עמכם ואוהל לכם לזיכרון לפני השם אלוקיכם. So it's zikon lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, both of them the same inyan Torah. I would just add another point. That maybe that would explain the difference partially between Mishnah Torah and Minyan HaMitzvos, is since the Rambam here is going out of his way to explain why it's one mitzvah, and the mitzvah is the Ma'aseh of Zikon Lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. So maybe that the Za'aka is only a T'nai, because the Ma'aseh mitzvah is the same, and of both in Tinios and a Korban. It's not the Za'aka. It's a Ha'osim b'chatzotros, Kiyas chatzotros, of a Zikon Lifnei Hashem. And Mishnah Torah, where there's a separate story b'chlal, that the Kiyas chatzotros will come, the Kiyah of a chatzotros, we said, are part of Shiur Halavim, on Korban. So here, you're not limited in how you define what the chatzotros are. It's still going to be one mitzvah, because chatzotros is not a mitzvah, not a mitzvah at all. It's part of the mitzvah of this Levim. It should be accompanied by chatzotros of Kohanim. So then you can understand that the chatzotros, that the Za'aka is part of the mitzvah, because it's not a mitzvah of Kiyah. It's a mitzvah of Lizak Lifnei Hashem through two instruments. If the mitzvah Lizak Lifnei Hashem, that has nothing to do with the chatzotros of Korban. Next. Now, let's go now to the Rambam Mishnah Torah. More than that, the Rambam writes in Perek Aleph of Hilchos Tainis, Halacha Aleph, Mitzvah Aseh, Min HaTorah, Litz'oi Koloria, B'chatzotros al Kol Tzora, Shetovo Atzibur, Shnema Atzar Atzereschem, V'arosim B'chatzotros. Kloima Kol Dovo, Sheyetza Lochem, Batzeres, V'dever, V'arbe, U'kyetz Behen, Zaku Aleihem V'oriu. So again, as we mentioned before, the tziruf of Za'aka together with chatzotros in Mishnah Torah. In Halacha Beis and Gimel, V'dov hazeh mijaka et tshuvahu, shebizman shetov tzara v'yizaku או לאהוב יריעו ויעדו. הכל, everyone will know שבגלל מעשיהם הרואים, הוא עליהם ככוסו המסרים הטו, וזהו שיגרום להם להסיר מעליהם הצרות. The Za'aka will bring to introspection and tshuva. אבל אם לא יצעקו, ולא יריעו, אלא יאמרו, דוב הזה מן מנהג של עולם עירה לנו, וצור זה נקרס, it's just a coincidence. It's part of it's a natural calamity. הרי זה דרך אכזוריות. וגורמס להן להידבק במעשיהם הרואים. ותוסיף הצורוס אחרס, ממש לגתרחו. והוא שכוסו בתורה, והלכתם עמי בקרי, והלכתם עמוכם בקרי. כלומר, כשאובי עליכם צורו, כדי שתשובו, the purpose of the tzara is a call for tshuva. Im tomu shehu keri, oisif lochem chamas oise keri. So the mitzvah of Mishnah Torah is lizoik lori lifnei Hashem, to know that the tzara is meis Hashem, melosa b'tshuva. And it's very different than minyan mitzvahs. And because in minyan mitzvahs, it's here that the tkiya, the Eis Sorah is only tonight. It's a ma'aseh tkiya. Nizka lifnei Hashem Elokechem. Shebe'Eis Sorah rak zman sheyesh mitzvahs tkiya. The Eis Sorah is the time when there's a mitzvah tkiya, and the Za'aka is a tonight. And the Eis Sorah, well, the Za'aka, there's a chiyuv tkiya, but not it's not introspection. It's not tshuva. The Za'aka is not part of the mitzvah. In Mishnah Torah, the Zok is the mitzvah, and the Tkiya is part of the Zokah. Interesting. The Rambam in Protei Mitzvah, I just want to say something. This is not. It's an amazing thing. The Rambam even goes further than Protei Mitzvahs because he only mentions Za'aka and Tainus. He doesn't mention the Tekiyah B'Chetzosos at all. Listen to this. In Protei Mitzvah, Hilchos Tainus, Les Anis V'Lizoik Lifnei Hashem B'Chol Eis Tzara Gedolah Shetova L'Tzibur. No, now we mention the chatzotros. Just an aside, the Rav used to say that the mitzvahs vidui, according to the Rambam, is only by one who knows that he was a chayte. But Yom Kippurim, there's an obligation to say vidui and to be machapes b'ma'asov on the suffix that maybe he was chayte, to be introspective and to do tshuva. Look at Perek Beis Halacha Zayin. Lefil chayovim hakol lasis tshuva u'lisvadas v'yom kippurim. So it's a similar thing about tzara eschem, that this is similar to Yom Kippur as machayek to be introspective. The tzara is machayek to introspective. Yizaku aleo v'yoriu yedu akol shebeglam ma'aseh moroim. We go further now, okay? Say it. Now, so now you can flip the question. Once we said in Mishnah Torah that the Za'aka, that the mitzvah of Chatzot is the mitzvah Za'aka Lifnei Hashem, and Chatzot al Korban, and then nothing to do. So it should have been. So now you can ask the Radvaz's question. And the answer is that the Chatzot al Korban is not part of the mitzvah at all of Chatzot, because Chatzot al Korban is part of the Ma'aseh Korban, and you could have said that from Shiur base that anything which is part of the Ma'aseh Korban in Oila, in the Sachim, is part of the Mitzvah Oil, the Ram says. So you could have assumed that which goes together with the Sachim, the Shira, is part of it. You could have matched the thing. Because the Ram quotes in Shiur Beis that Nesachim is part of the Mitzvah, even though it's a separate parsha and nothing to do with anything. Okay? It's in Shlach. It's not in the Sefer Vayikra at all. And Oila is part of the Sefer Vayikra.
That why it puts in Klei HaMikdash separately? What? Is that why the Ram has in the Chatzot Shos Al Korban is a separate thing in Klei HaMikdash?
No, I understand. So that's what you could have imagined such a thing, but the Ram and Klei HaMikdash were in the boy. In Perigim Alocheh, as I mentioned before, says Me'am Mo'adis Kulam, U'Roshei Chotshechem, Hoyo Kohanim Toikim B'Chatzotros, B'Shas HaKorban, V'Alavim Oimim Shira, Shenem V'Yom Simchaschem, V'Mo'adechem, U'Roshei Chotshechem, Vatקעתם בחצוצרות, which is very interesting. Just so I would have said, you see, I would have started the opposite. I would have said the Shira, and this Shira is different. It's accompanied by chatzotros. But it's a very strange thing. He says, בימי המועדס כולם, ראש חדשך ואוי הכהנים תקעו בחצוצרות, בשעת הקרבנות, ולווים אומרים משירה. שנאמר, וביום שמחתכם מועדיכם, ראש חדשך וזכרתם בחצוצרות. Very odd. But the Ram is very clear. That the chatzotros, he doesn't say there's a mitzvah of chatzotros. He just happens to say that b'meichem hoya kohanim. It's like it's a story for you. The whole lush is very strange. The story. בימי המועד כולם, ובראשי חודשי חודשים, היו הכהנים תקעים בחצוצרות. The Ram is telling a story, a historical fact. It don't make no sense. Or the Ram said, mitzvah liskaya. B'chatzos b'shas korban shenema. No, he says, b'mei hamoad kulam v'rosh chodoshim hoyu hakohanim toiki b'chatzos. It's a historical fact. B'shas korban v'alaviyim or mishira. I said, share this fact. Shenema. And then how do we know the kohanim were the toikim b'yom chodoshim u'schat b'chatzos? Okay, so the lashon is odd. Furthermore, the Ram quotes Chatzotzes b'yachim shius levim. So here, then you can say that the Chatzotros are a peculiar halacha in Shiur Levim, which the Mitzvas say Chav Gimel, and therefore he quotes in Perek Gimel, which is the Perek of Avodas Levim, and not in Perek Dalet, which is the Perek of Avodas Kohanim, and he doesn't quote it was Ma'aser Korbanos. So, l'chei Mishnah Torah from the Sefer, what he says, it seems to be part of the mitzvah of Shiur Levim. But without that, without the whole diuk of the Sefer, you could have said that it's part of the Sachim, and the Sachim are part of Eilah. Next. So it's still, it's a kiyum in the Avodas HaLevim, and the Avodas HaLevim are saying Shir, and it's a mitzvah of Avodas HaLevim, and the Ram says that the Kalim, there's no dinim, in general, you don't need Levim, because he can Shir B'Fer. So he can Shir B'Fer. So the accompaniment could be anyone. And here, the Torah is makbid that the accompaniment should be the kohen. So you have to ask us, was that the pshat? That it says hoyu? Because the mitzvah is a mitzvah on Levim? And the company is Kohanim, so it's Hoyu, that's what it was because of the pasuk. This is very odd. And that's the Hoyu. It's only an accompaniment. Say that. So there's a major conceptual machlokes in Sefer Mitzvah Mishnah Torah. According to the Rambam, in Sefer Mitzvahs, the mitzvah Torah chatzreis bizman mesuyim al korban beisara. Different times, lizochel lifnei Hashem. And it's the same in Torah. And the Ram Mishnah Torah, the mitzvah chatzos beisara is a mitzvah of za'akol tshuva, and chatzos al korban is a chelik of mitzvah cheres. So you could have said that it's a ma'aser olah, but the problems in the seder and the dinim, he quotes the minuk klei mikdash, or you could have said it's a din in Avodas HaLevim. And it's hoyu, because the mitzvah is really on the Levim, the Kohanim only accompaniment, so it's hoyu. Very big chiddush. Next. Now, interesting. Then we'll have to go back before the other part, that we'll see. Interesting is the Afsadigoy. Afsadigoy in his new Minyan Mitzvah, which is recently published, which is collected from Geniza fragments and the Kairo Geniza. In Perek Chaf Aleph, page 204, he writes like this: V'nikva sheyeh li'am chatzritzreis sheyiskeu bohen v'oz yisasvu. It's a to gather the people. Kefi she'oma b'parsha as parsha aseh lecho shtei chatzritzreis kesef at Sefer Piska. The Rambam has a new mitzvah of Asifa Sa'om, and I just want to say it's a double portion, according to Rabsadi going there in his Sefer Mitzvahs, that it's L'tzorach HaMelech, because he puts Chatzeitzreis in Perek Chaf Aleph, which is the Perek of Chovas HaMelech. Listen to the Perek. Ho'esrim ve'echad, in Perek Ho'esrim ve'echad, the 25th Perek, Chovas HaMelech ve'hein Sheva. It's the obligation on the king. Aseh lecho shtei chatzros is kesef miksha tasa v'yilachol lemikra ho'eda. It's what the melech uses to gather the people. So, not getting involved, here you can start thinking about, whether there's something with Deus over Rashi hasn't mentioned Melech, okay. And here, the pasuk of Deus Seichem, maybe actually goes on this. So, the Deus Seichem. But the odd thing in the Afsadigoin is he says, when he quotes him, Sha'oma b'parsha aseh lecho shtei chatzritzreis kesef at Sefer Piska. It means the end of the parsha, and everything inside is all one mitzvah. An amazing thing. That the mashmos is that the mitzvah is all the psukim in the parsha are a seif. And it's not limited to Asifas Om, the Tzorach HaMelech. That the mitzvah is the Klal Yisrael Shev Chatzeitzos. And do according to the Mitzvas. L'aseh, Esom, Tekiah b'Milchama, and the Sadi going ala Torah in Bamidbar Yud Pasuk Tes, Utkiah ala Korban. So, but you don't understand then why it's Chavis Melech. The Bahag could have done such a thing, because the Bahag quotes Chatzitis in the midst of Parshiyos. And it's the whole parsha. Parsha's Chatzaitzreis. So it means the whole parsha, like maybe like Avsadigoy. We don't know then why he happens to put it in Melech. Melech is only part of it. It's not the whole thing. Now, before we go on, let's just the Mogen Avro and Or Chaim. And we'll go back. Maybe we'll finish this mitzvah. Maybe whatever. The Mogen Avro in Or Chaim in the in Hilchos Tainiyos in the Agdoma. He says, "Kosaram mitzvah say lizoik doria the chatzris akoltzov but if you say from the sanis v'chulei, okay, v'ani tomeya lomo ein onu eshkashem mogen avom nogim l'skoya be'eis soro halo midiraisa mitzvah l'skoya beloy tainis." Okay, when it was the time of whenever there's a tragedy or milchama, we should blow chatzitzis. It's a mitzvah say. According to the Rambam, fleck the Mogen Avram, why don't we do it? So the Rambam, mitzvahs, I would say, is certainly not like the Mogen Avram. Because the Rambam doesn't write. The mitzvah is in Eretz Yisrael, the dafka. Okay, so listen to this. With Visayvlis Anus Merim B'Chatzreitzes Bilvad Bigvul O B'Shefer Litzak B'Chatzreitzes So Akol Tzor B'Tzima Goisem Bigvul. So maybe you could say, in Eretz Yisrael, whatever, but in Sefer Mitzvah nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael and Gvul. And the Rambam himself is mefurish nagdomo leminyan HaMitzvos and Seif Sheresh Yudalid that the mitzvah is he has a list of the mitzvahs that the Rambam is going to say the mitzvah in Noigin Eretz Yisrael b'dafka. He writes like oh Kisheesko HaMitzvah she'eino nogis ela be'eretz Yisrael or b'fnei habayis you aseh loisaseh oime v'zeh eino choyve ela be'eretz Yisrael v'chule. And he never said it here. So the chayre it's even in chutz la'aretz. And in Mishnah Torah it doesn't say at all that the mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael. So I don't, if you look at the Mogen Avram, he's mashma, it's only in Eretz Yisrael, and we have no idea of what happened over here. That's just an aside. Okay, Atzlocha, next week in Mitzvah Shem the Shiur will be on Sunday. Shabbat Atzlocha.